Alrighty. Okay, chat up and running. I think I'm going to get started warming up with not Pickle Rick, but with something else. So let's go ahead and close that down. Okay, we're good to go. Okay, where's my Wacom pen? There it is. All right, start up ZBrush. That's where we normally start. Last time, or on Tuesday morning on Pixelogic Stream, I did a cone with sprinkles, which is kind of fun. And then I also did a Batman cowl, which is also kind of fun. And I like to do that on my channel as well, just so I can archive it. And it's easily searchable, so I'd put that in the live stream highlights, or in the case of Pickle Rick, put that in its own playlist, which is probably what I'd want to do. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. Let's get started with, and you know, this may not be new to you if you did watch my Pixelogic stream, but I'm going to make one of these real quick. So a couple different ways to do reference is I would take this into ZBrush here, and then go to texture import, and I just go to my desktop, and now I just bring this in here, and then once you have that selected, whoops, wrong one, don't want my error code. There we go. You would select that texture, you click this little plus button, and now you've got it in Spotlight, and now you can kind of shrink it down, or you can drop the opacity down, or you can raise it up, and you can just throw it over here, and you can use that as your reference. Now, if you want to start modeling and sculpting out here, what you're going to want to do is go over here to Brush, Samples, and turn off Spotlight Projection, because with Spotlight Projection on, you have to sculpt behind the spotlight. Another thing you could do is take this see-through and just drop that down, and you see when we had this open on our desktop that we can just do see-through, and we can just kind of look through that. And what we're going to end up using actually is probably Quadro. So I'm going to open up Quadro here, Quadro. Let's go more. Go ahead and run this as administrator here. And we'll go ahead and throw some images in here. So now this one already has my latest loaded preset in here, which is probably some Tech Armor stuff. I'll go ahead and open up Pickle Rick reference. Oops. Let's go ahead and launch that again. Let's see what's up with that. Or, you know, I can just use this, since it's just a simple image, I can just use this one here. So if I throw this over here on this screen, I can kind of just eyeball it, which is probably what I'm going to do. And I can use Spotlight. I'm going to go ahead and turn Spotlight Projection back on, hit Z to go back into widget mode here, and we'll just drop this opacity down. So just really quickly, I'm going to make this cone first really quick. So we'll hit, let's go over here to our, doesn't really matter which one we're going to want to use because I'm going to make some changes to it. So let's start with the cylinder here. Okay, there it goes. I have the last preset I had open in Quadro was gigantic. So I'm going to go ahead and close that preset first just to kind of clear that out, and then see if I can open my recent one. There we go. And now I'm going to turn off autosave, and there we go. Okay, so we've got that loaded up. And then if I want to, I can just add local image, and I can go to my desktop here, and then I can grab my soft serve, and now I've got a Quadro image I can throw over here. Quadro is just a little bit nicer to use. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to matte cap gray here, and I'm going to hit Z, and I'm going to bring that opacity down just a bit. And like I said before, we're going to make some changes to this first. So I'm going to go over here to polyframe, we're going to go to initialize, and we're going to go to H divide. I'm going to drop this down to like 12 or 16, V divides to 3, and that'll be good enough. So I'm going to go to geometry here, and then make polymesh 3D. So make polymesh 3D up here, and now we can start making our cone. Hit Control N to clear my canvas there. And right away you're going to see we're going to need to make the cone about yay big on the top. Go ahead and Control Alt to mask the bottom of this one here, and we'll hold down Alt, and we will just tap that bottom point here. If I want to, let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and set this up so where, as I'm judging these distances here, I can really quickly just kind of snap my camera back. So we're going to go over here to our documents, You could use the movie for this, but I'm just going to use documents really quickly, ZapLink properties, and we'll just call this custom 1. So now that I have that, I can go ahead and scale this end down here. And now what we can do is we can unmask, and now we can go through here. We can go to Insert, Multiple Edge Loops, Interactive Elevation, and now we can just kind of pull these things in, and I can kind of shrink these things down like so. So I can move this one up, and we can also just go through here, and we can do a quick slide edge loop complete, and we'll just slide this one up here. Let's go ahead and insert another multiple edge loop, and again we'll just pull this in here, and actually we probably need to go ahead and slide this one in just a bit too. And you can also do insert single edge loop, and we'll go ahead and drop one right in here. Let's go ahead and hold down Alt and get rid of this one. And now that we've kind of, let's go ahead and slide this one down just a little bit too. So I'm going to go ahead and cap this area in here, and now let's try to do like a scale edge loop complete, and we can just scale this in from the side here. That'll work. Now we can go back to insert multiple edge loops, and now we can kind of pull this one out, and now we can do the same here. Now we've got the basic cone shape. Now if I do Shift Z to get rid of that, you can see this is the cone that we have. If we want to give this some interior thickness, all we need to do is we've got probably the fastest way to do this, go to your polygroup menu under Tool, let's just do it, Tool, Polygroups, and let's go to Group by Normals with this max angle set at 45 should work just fine. And now we've got a separate polygroup here and a separate polygroup here. So I'm going to go ahead and Control-Shift click this top polygroup, Control-Shift drag to invert that. We're going to go ahead and delete hidden. And now if we go to a face, hover over face with our Z Modeler brush, BZM, QMesh, all polygons. Now we pull this in. Now we have some interior thickness. It's going to look inverted, so you're going to want to go down here to your display properties under Tool and just flip. And now we've got this. Let's go ahead and let's go to our geometry crease. We'll drop that crease tolerance down to like, I don't know, 47-ish should work as a start. We can hit D to turn on our dynamic subdiv, and now we can kind of see what this is going to look like. If we want to crease this crease this one here, but not this one here, it's a simple matter of just going in here to crease edge loop complete. We'll just crease this bottom one here, and we're in good shape. Now, it does look a little bit too sharp here, so if we go into our dynamic and change the smooth subdiv up to 4, it's like, well, we get a nice smooth result. And again, this is just preview. Just do Shift D, D and Shift D, just toggle in and out of that, but it's still really too sharp on those edges. So what I'm going to do is go down here to my crease, and then we're going to take our crease level down to like 3. And now it's, you know, let's do crease level down to 2, since this is going to be a pretty soft cone here. And now we're going to get this. Now, this edge looks okay. This edge looks a little bit not sharp enough, so I'm going to turn on polyframe here. I'm going to hover over an edge. We're going to go to Insert, Single Edge Loop. And now you can just drop in an edge loop just to kind of tighten that bottom one up just a bit. There we go. Now to go ahead and fill this up with ice cream really quickly, let's go ahead and go out of edit mode. And we'll go up here to our primitives, and we'll start with a helix. Everybody doing okay? Everybody, thanks for showing up. Just going to make an ice cream cone really quick. Like I said before, we did this on the Pixelogic channel, but I want to archive it on my channel, so I'm going to do just another quick run through. So we've made the cone. Now we need to make the helix. So I got the helix here, going to edit mode, and I'm going to go, it's still a primitive. So if I go down here to initialize, you're going to see I have a bunch of initialize options. Now if I was to make this a Polymesh 3D, these initialize options would change into QMesh or Q something, Q primitive initialize options. But for now what we can do is we can go ahead and change, let's just start from the top. So coverage is how many swirls we want. So 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say. 1, 2, 3, a little bit more than that. You know what, we can just also type in 4. Okay, 4 swirls. And then the profile here is going to be, that's fine. And then we're going to go down here to thickness. And if we make this thicker on the bottom, which we probably want to do, although, you know, it all is pretty uniformly thick, I would say. Let's make the bottom a little bit thicker, but then that uniform thickness to the top as well. And then maybe increase that coverage just a tiny bit. We can also close these gaps as well. And then if we go over here to radius, you're going to see it's going to go from thin to thick to thin. Let's go ahead and thicken this bottom out. So we're going to start here and we're going to get a little bit thinner, and then we're going to need to curly cue this top one off. Also, let's go back to our, so our thickness is here, our profile is here, coverage is here, and then our radius. Go ahead and squeeze that in just a little bit. Z offset, kind of thicken that up as well. And then also if you want to put in a twist, you can twist one of these edges, and now you can go through here and you can delete some of these edges. That'll give you kind of that sharp, that kind of sharp transition here. We'll probably skip that though. Okay, so now that we've got this all set up, let's go ahead and do that curly cue twist. I didn't have a really good solution for this. I mean, I guess you could, you know, come up with a curve brush that you could sew right back into here, or you could model one really quickly. I'm just going to probably steal the end of that. So what I'm going to do is go up here to make Polymesh 3D so I can start sculpting on this thing, or making changes, I should say. And now we're going to go over here to our Z modeler brush, BZM, Q mesh. Let's do flat island. And then as we start pulling this one off, hold down Control, we'll pop off a copy. And now we can start playing with this one. So I'm going to Control Shift click this one, mask it by Control clicking, Control Shift to bring everything back, Control Shift click, and then Control tap to invert that. Of course, you can make that a little bit shorter by just hitting W and then Control clicking this one, and now you're good to go. So old habits, they die hard. So now if I hold down Control and drag, I can drag out a copy of this one, which is not what I want to do. Let's give this a little bit of thickness so I can see a little bit better. So I'm going to Q mesh, flat island again, and we'll just bring this up. So now what I can do is I can say this thing's going to, I'm going to bridge those two holes here, and then I'm going to drag out a copy and have this spin over this way, and it's going to get smaller. And I'm going to bridge these two here, and it's going to go like this way. And then I'm going to drag out a copy, and I'm going to move this way, and it's going to get smaller. Going for that Dairy Queen curl, and then another copy here, and it's going to get even smaller. So as I bridge those, it'll kind of make that shape. So let's go through here, and we can do a delete a flat island. If we don't have polygroups here, we can just delete that one, and then we know it's going to go here to here to here, and you can also do like delete polygroup all if you wanted to get rid of all these at once. But I am going to leave this last one capped. So there we go. And now let's see how this is going to work. So let's go to bridge, two holes, and we'll just use spline. There might be a better option for us, but I think this will work okay. And once it starts getting small, I'm going to go into my mouse, and we'll just kind of pull that up. Now you can make changes here, and you can also go through here. I made these pretty thin. I'm just going to go through here and collapse poly loop here, and we'll just collapse these down just to make these a little bit simpler here. And you can hold down, you can hit W and hold down Control. You can just drag up your mesh, and it'll kind of follow the topology. And now you can use your move brush, or you can, let's go ahead and do preferences, edit, turn off align cursor to surface. There we go. And now you can just really quickly kind of put this in here. You could also use Shift to smooth. We'll smooth this transition just a bit. I'll pull this right down in here. And now if you want to, you can also go through here and inflate. So smooth and inflate, and we'll just kind of push that right in there. Yay, let's go ahead and hit Control W, make this all one polygroup here. If we want to, we can just append it to our cone, or we can use an insert mesh brush. I think appending will be simple enough. So we'll grab this cone here, we'll go to append our modified helix. We'll take this, we'll hit W, we'll hold down Alt and reset this and set it to the middle, and we'll just pull that right up in there. Yay, that'll work. And then we'll go ahead and hit D for our dynamic subdiv, and we're off to the races. So we're going to go ahead and smooth this out just a little bit more. We'll do smooth subdiv of 3, and again, this is just a preview. And we can also go through here with our move brush, or you know, let's inflate. So you can use your move brush, topological, or control drag to mask, but I'm just going to go through here and I'm going to inflate these little gaps together here. Because obviously that would be some terrifically hard ice cream. This is soft serve. So we've got our cone here, couple more changes we need to make. So we need to make that, well, we also need to clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to hit Shift D, and let's go ahead and make some modifications to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another insert multiple edge loops with interactive elevation. I'm just going to insert another edge loop here, but I'm going to pull this down just a bit because it looks like it has a little harsher transition on the side. And I'm also going to do QMesh. Let's do QMesh, polygroup all, polygroup island. And since this one here, I want to be a polygroup island, let's go ahead and polygroup this polyloop. And now when we QMesh this one, we can hold down Shift, and that'll just kind of pull it along that surface normal, and it kind of flares out like that. If we do Shift Z and then pull this back up, whoops, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Not pin spotlight. Opacity, there we go. You can kind of see how it kind of flares down and has a sharper transition. So we'll try and maintain that a little bit. And we'll also just drop a crease right along the top here because it does look like a pretty serious, it's not playing around. There we go. So something a little more like that. We also need to put in those little hatch marks, or these little waffles on the side. And in order to do that, I'm going to do Shift D. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to drop this down a little bit. Go to Insert, or we'll go to Slide, Edge Loop Complete. We'll slide this down to about where they stop, which is about here. And then go ahead and put waffles on the side. Now, one thing I tried to do was go to like Insert Multiple Edge Loops, and just kind of eyeball how many of these things would be in here, and then inset all of these and push them in. But getting those to render or to smooth correctly on a cylindrical surface is a pain, and I'll just run you through an example of why cylindrical surfaces can sometimes be a pain, and letting ZRemesher do the heavy lifting for you, or live Boolean. So if we go in here to cylinder, make polymesh 3D, we'll go ahead and scale that out. And let's go ahead and do like a crease dynamic, and let's go ahead and duplicate this off, and let's go ahead and rotate this around and hold down Shift. Here we go, and scale this down, and then we'll hit W. Now, for this one, let's hit W. Let's turn on sticky, and then I'm going to control drag out a copy, and I'm going to hit 1, which is going to be under stroke replay last. And we don't need to redo that many. And we'll unmask this one. We'll duplicate this one off, and we'll rotate this one here, holding down Shift to constrain it, and we'll push this forward. And of course, you can make as many copies as you want. But what I'm more concerned about is getting this piece right here to smooth correctly by rebuilding it using ZRemesher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do what we did before, which is group by normals under the polygroup menu to get polygroups here, and then I'm going to get new polygroups when I have this one here and this one here punched through. So what I'm going to do is, this is going to be our start group. You don't have to make it a start group if you just have one, but we'll go ahead and say that's the start group. These are both subtractive. We'll turn on our live Boolean, and now we've got our live Boolean result. So in order to see this, or to make it real, I should say, let's go ahead and go down to our Boolean, D subdiv on, make Boolean mesh. And now with our UMesh result, we can take this, and this is our result. So here, I want to make this so it's just like a thickness. So I'm going to Control-Shift-Click this outside polygroup here. We're going to go ahead and delete hidden. And now we can go into Tool, Geometry, ZRemesher here. And now you can just say target polygon count of 5 is okay. Let's just do half because we're at 12 now. We'll drop down to 6. Although with adaptive size up, it's not going to leave us at 6. It's probably going to be pretty close to that. So we'll drop that down just a bit, and now I'll ZRemesh this. And now what this is going to allow us to do, because if I was to go through here and take a cylinder and then make these faces big enough to where I could punch in a hole and then go through and try and build in edge loops and stuff, in order to maintain the cylindrical shape, it would be a real, I would have a hard time. So, everybody good still? Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good question, Sam. We'll get, I'll show you a couple different methods you could use to possibly frame one to get an exact kind of shape that you're looking for. But now that we have this result, if we go through here and now we just do a QMesh polygroup all, and we just QMesh this out of thickness, and then we could do like maybe a crease polygroup here and hit D. Now you're going to see this thing smooths beautifully. It builds in the cylinders, because this is what you would have to build in order to get a cylindrical object with holes poked in it to build correctly. So same idea here. In order to punch in these waffles here, what I'm probably going to have to do is, number one, it looks like this one comes out just a little bit. I'm going to hold down Control Shift, select lasso. I'm going to grab all of these edge rings, because with select lasso you can grab these edge rings here. And now I can invert that, hit Control W. So these are all one polygroup here. And it also looks like this thing comes out just a bit. So what I'm going to do is go to Insert, Single Edge Loop. We're just going to move this out just a tiny bit. Q Mesh, Polygroup All, and we'll just kind of snap that out just a bit. And you know what? Let's go to Align Full Step, and we'll just snap that out. Is it going to hit it? Align half step. I'm trying to get it to just, I want to get some thickness. Okay, I guess that'll work. And then when I hit D, that's what I'm looking for, and it also looks like it creases on the bottom here. I'm getting a little bit more specific than I did in the other stream, but that's okay. We'll go to Slide, Edge Loop Complete. We'll slide this up just a little bit, and we'll put a little bit of a crease in this one here, and we'll also put in a little bit of a control loop down here at the bottom, and maybe on the bottom here. So now that'll work. Okay, so now what we need to do is punch in these holes here. So what we're going to do is, again, let's just verify that these are all one polygroup here. So I'm going to hover over this one, polygroup, polyloop, tap, and then Alt to go ahead and pull in a brand new polyloop here. And now we can go to Inset, Polygroup All, and we don't want to do region. So if we do region, it's not going to do them for each one. And now we're just going to punch in these for each one. Now, before I do that, I just want to use these as my inset cube meshes, because you're going to see you can do like an array mesh or something, but since it's on a tilted axis, it kind of tilts in. It's kind of be a pain to match maybe. So I'm just going to take the easy way out. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to duplicate this off, go into solo mode, and now when we inset this, let's do Shift D. We can take these squares here, and now we can do Control Shift with our select rectangle here. And now we can go ahead and delete hidden, and now we've got these Q Mesh, Polygroup All, we've got these little blocks. So now, go out of solo mode, we have our original cone here, and then the little waffle pattern we're going to imprint. Now we know, if I go ahead and make this subtractive, since we just pulled this straight out, and we go make this subtractive here, and we go into Live Boolean, we're not going to see it because it's not actually punching into our object yet. So let's go into solo mode here. I'm going to tap this polygroup, Q Mesh, Polygroup All, and hold down Shift and just pull it in just a little bit so we can kind of come in. And now you can see it's going to start punching through our mesh. Does it punch through our mesh enough? Yeah, sure. So we're going to go ahead and say this is okay, but we kind of want to round these edges out a little bit. We could go in here to our dynamic subdiv, and we could turn on dynamic, and then we could go ahead and like crease all of these things, and then turn our smooth subdiv up and down. What you could also do, if you do uncrease all, you can also do Q grid. So we'll take our smooth down to 0, change our Q grid up. So if we go into solo mode on this one, you're going to see with Q grid at 1, we can change the coverage, and that's going to build an edge in right along those bevels here. And I think that'll work just fine. And you can also add a smooth along with your Q grid as well, which in this case isn't going to help us that much. So let's do Q grid to coverage. We'll kind of bring that down, and I think that'll be fine. All right, so we've got our waffles imprinted here. Let's go ahead and go into solo mode here. And let's also bring these edges in. So I'm going to Q Mesh, Polygroup All. I'm going to hold down Shift, and we're just going to push it right in along that surface normal. We'll make those a little tiny bit smaller here, just increasing the distance between those. All right, so we've got that result. So what I'm going to do is let's go to our subtool menu. So if I want to make this real, so I can go ahead and smooth it out as a Dynamesh. Anything else I need to do? Looks like there's like a slight edge here. Let's do that really quickly. Let's go out of our Boolean render here. We'll do Shift D. One more slight change. We're going to go to Insert, Single Edge Loop. And now we're going to go to Polygroup, Polyloop. And now you don't even have to do this. You could do Q Mesh, Polyloop if you wanted to, but I usually want to have a polygroup here. So Q Mesh, Polygroup All. And we'll just pull this out. Actually, just to play it safe. Whenever you go through here, see that polygroup, polyloop made this the same polygroup here. Just tap Alt, and that'll cycle through just different colors here. And now we can do Q Mesh, Polygroup All. I'll pull that out here, and let's go ahead and get rid of this control loop here. So insert single edge loop, and we'll leave that creased. Just building that slight ridge there. There we go. Okay, so we got this, we got this. If I want to go ahead and make a U mesh and have this represented, we'll go ahead and make this a new start group. We'll make this a new start group. And now when we go turn on our Boolean render, that's the result we're going to get. I think we're in good shape. So let's go ahead and do, let's make sure these things are subdivided enough. Yeah, it's fine. And we'll go ahead and do dynamic subdivision, make Boolean mesh. That's going to make us a new U mesh here. PM3D, U mesh. There we go. With two subtools because we had two start groups. So we got this one here and we got this one here. Now, if this one isn't, it did add subdivisions here. So if you go here, it's like, oh, I got a lot of geometry. If you want to get those back, just go to reconstruct and contains triangles. It should have just been a simple subdivide. I wonder if we could do this. Let's go to group by normals, max angle. You know what, we could just do this manually, although I'd have to go in there. Okay, you guys want to do this manually? Let's do this manually. Let's say we want to rebuild this. So I'm going to take select lasso here. I'm going to control shift, click that ring here, and do a quick auto groups. And then I'm going to go here, and I need to see the bottom of this little thing, and it's going to be hard to get to, right? So I'm going to hit R, or not rotate, but you know, it doesn't really matter with the new widget. And just drag along here. From the back way maybe. There we go. And let's do a quick hide point. Hide point and then invert that. Okay, it went ahead and grabbed it for us, although that's not really what we're looking for. Let's see. I guess we just go in here and do it. So we'll go do Control Shift and we'll grab this one here, and let's do another quick auto groups. Although, no, we don't want to do that. Let's grab, did that even go all the way around? Seems to be stopping. Let's see if polygroup will do it. Go into our Z modeler brush here, and we'll go to poly loop, polygroup. Oh no. This is why you want to use your mouse when you're getting into small areas here, because I just accidentally Q-meshed polygroup all this really high density mesh. Okay, so let me answer some questions while that's busy crashing. Let's go to my YouTube channel here. So one I see right off the bat is, how do you go about making blend shapes with layers for use as more targets, Marvelous Designer? I have that under my live stream highlights. If you go all the way to the bottom here to episode number Marvelous Membrane, number 91. I'm going to link that to you. That'll be, it's called Marvelous Membrane, and that's where we do the wing membrane. Let's see. Scroll all the way up. Sorry, guys. And if I miss anything, just let me know. I'm just taking a cursory glance up through here. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Okay, so if you want to make my custom menu or your own custom menu, if you go to here's my playlist here, YouTube playlist, and if you go specifically to Intro to ZBrush Part 2, the first, so video 2, 3, 4 is custom hotkeys, custom interface, and custom menu, so you can make your own. So I'll link you directly to that. And if you want, go to my Gumroad channel or my CubeBrush channel. If you scroll all the way to the bottom here, the Intro to ZBrush files, you can have my custom menu all set up for you for ZBrush 4R8, so you can use that. And then the start shape of the nozzle we'll get to in just a second. If this works, all right, we'll close that, fine. Load this back up. Cool. Alrighty. So let's see if we got anything worthwhile here. Covered documents. So we're doing faces. We got the cone. This is going to be a Z project, which probably won't be all that relevant here. Let's see what we got in here. Yeah, that's the lady. So we'll go back to our cone. Oh, you know what? We do have this one here. So this is what happens when you try and build it in. You kind of get that result, gross. So don't do that. And then we'll go back to here. Okay, so we got our helix, pick polymesh 3D. So making this thing shouldn't have been that big a deal here. So we can really quickly, we can just leave that. You guys have already seen the result of that here. So if we go ahead and just take this one here, basically what I was trying to do is normally what happens when you have a dynamic subdivision and we didn't do anything to this, if we just go over here, so our dynamic, and we just hit apply, that'll give us subdivision. And now if we go over here to geometry, we should be able to, it takes our dynamic and makes it into real geometry. Well, if you delete that and then you hit reconstruct, it should reconstruct back to this. Also, what you could do is just I was trying to find those end caps so that I could do a nice ZBrush here. So if you do a quick group by normals, that'll give you a group here and then a group at the end here, except I think I pulled that out to a point, so it might not do that. And now you can just simply go over here to your ZBrush. So geometry, let's go ahead and delete higher. We're going to go to ZBrush, so Dynamesh, ZBrush here, target polygon count. We'll do same, and then adapt the size down to 0. And then if you want to, you can also say keep groups, and then you can ZBrush this, and it'll go ahead and it would have rebuilt my geometry. We could have done half or give it a target polygon count, and then I'll just rebuild this geometry here. If you want to go ahead and recap these, just isolate that, invert that, geometry, modify topology, delete hidden, hover over an edge with your Z modeler brush, and then you would just do close convex hole, and then there you go. So that's what I was looking for. Not a big deal, just kind of one of those things. So smooth subdiv, we'll go ahead and pump that up to 4. So let's go ahead, and again, this is just dynamics of this because we rebuilt it, and then we went into dynamic again. So let's go ahead and do our inflate brush again. We'll just kind of inflate right along the edges here. So you've got the waffles in there, and now the last thing we need to do, excellent idea from the comments section, which was to add sprinkles of this thing, and that'll be a fun one. So what we can do is let's go ahead and do, we've got that here, let's do Shift-D, and I'm going to go to the top, and I want to find all of these top surfaces here. So what I'm going to do, let's get rid of draw menu here. We can go to our poly groups here, and I'm going to do group by normals. No, group visible or group front. Let's do group front. And now if we go, yeah, it's hard to see. Okay, there we go. So you're going to see we got blue and green, so we just basically, wherever the camera is facing, it just grouped right along the front. So I think group front is camera facing, group front. So if you hover over any interface item in ZBrush, it'll tell you what it is. Group front facing polygons. Hold down Control. Group front button creates a new polygroup based on the camera. Perfect. So wherever your camera is facing, which is straight down, you'll grab all those top facing edges here. You can ignore that if you want to. If you go to Insert Nanomesh, all polygons, you can just ignore your polygroups, or if you want to keep them on the top facing, you can go Insert Nanomesh on Polygroup All, and now you can do that. Now, those don't look like sprinkles or jimmies if you're from Pittsburgh, so we're going to go ahead and go out of edit mode, hit Control-N, and now we can go into this one here, and let's go to our Sphere Ender 3D. So we'll take the Sphere Ender 3D here, go into edit mode, let's go to initialize, and we're going to go ahead and change this T radius down quite a bit. T curve, we'll go ahead and round that out nicely. And then H divides, we're going to crank this down to like 12, really simple. And then V divides, we can really simplify this shape as well. So we've got this here, although that's really just a sphere, right? What am I thinking? Okay, so yeah, you just grab a sphere. So we can go here, and we can grab a sphere 3D, drag that out, and then we can just go into initialize here. We could change this initialize to like 12, and then V divides to 12. There we go. And really what I'm looking for is if I hit Make Polymesh 3D, Control drag over the top of this one, hit W, Control drag, and now I'll just drag out like a little capsule shape. Oops. Hold on, Shift. There we go. Capsule shape. Now if you want to, now if I hit D, you're going to see, and this is just for little sprinkles that doesn't run out. This one maintains that edge a little bit better than this one because it has that control edge loop in here. If you want to add one down here, you can go to Insert, Single Edge Loop, and you can just plop it right in there. Also, I think they're a little bit longer. And you can make multiple ones where they're a little bit banged up and stuff, since this is going to be very regular looking, but I think this will work fine. So we can just leave this sitting here, because what we're going to do, we'll go back to our ice cream cone here, to our top facing polygroups here. We're going to go back into our Z modeler brush, hover over a face. We're going to go to Insert, Nanomesh Polygroup All, and we're going to hit M, and we're just going to grab that Polymesh Sphere 3D. Now there's a bunch of different ways where you could have had that shape selected and went into B, create Nanomesh Brush, and then it would have given you another Nanomesh Brush with this installed, but this is fine. So we'll go ahead and drop this on here. Now if we want to do different colors, what we're going to do is we're going to drag out one, and then we're going to go into our Nanomesh properties here. Whoops. And we can take this one now. Let's dial in some settings here. If you want to make them all go the same way, you can go to like align to normal, which in this case is going to make them look very regular. So I'm just going to go to no alignment. It's already kind of got some built-in randomization. Now we're going to truly randomize these things by doing variances and then random seed and random distribution. So let's go ahead and go to, so we can go to width, and that'll change the width of these. So we can crank the width down a little bit, I think, and then the length, we can increase that length a little bit, and then the height, we can kind of put a little range in there, and then the variances, we can go ahead and make these just a slight bit different. So they're all just a tiny bit off. Okay, so now X offset is going to move them that way. We don't really care about that. Y offset is going to move them this way. We don't really care about that. And Z offset is going to move them away from the face. If you want to kind of embed them a little bit, you can go ahead and drop that Z offset down, but I think 0 is going to be fine. Now rotation here, we can also drag in some variances for the rotation on the Z to kind of just give it a bunch of different random shapes here. Y rotation, I guess we'll just leave it 0. X rotate, we don't want them pointing out like that. I don't think sprinkles kind of land that way. So we can just leave those both at 0. So now that we have this, we can also go in here to, you know, those are looking a little bit long. Let's go ahead and drop those lengths down just a bit. Okay, we can also go in down here to random distribution. You can just kind of start dialing them in here. It's like, okay, that's perfect. We like this distribution, but there's not enough sprinkles. However, I want to make more colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these nanomesh properties. I'm going to start dragging out another nanomesh here, but you're going to see it's going to replace it. So I'm going to hold down Shift, and that'll just drag out another sprinkle, and then we can go ahead and paste those properties here. Now you're going to see when you paste it, it's going to overlay them exactly on these other sprinkles. So we're going to go in here to random seed, and let's kind of random seed those around. We'll grab another one here, hold down Shift, and then we'll paste. And we'll go ahead again and just random seed these around. And you can also, if you want to, you can change the random distribution a little bit. And let's do one more. Again, every time you hold down Shift and drag one out, you're going to get another indice. They look the same, but we're going to be able to make those into different polygroups when we get there. So then we'll go ahead, yeah, we went ahead and pasted that, and now we'll just do another random distribution and random seed here. Okay, so we've got a bunch of different sprinkles on there. So now what we can do is go down here. I found that by going to like geometry, convert BPR to geo, made these all the same polygroup, or at least it looked like it did. So I'm going to be careful and just go here to inventory, 1 to mesh, and just keep hitting that. And as I hit that, I should be getting new polygroups for every single one of these sprinkles. Although, doesn't seem to be the case. Let's say 1 to mesh, all to brush, replace nano mesh from brush, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, 1 to mesh, 1 to mesh. Okay, so I guess it is. It's just giving it a very similar color. Sometimes it'll do that. Polygroup will just pick a random color out there. So now I have these all different colors. Okay, so we've got this, we've got that. Let's go ahead and separate these. Now they're not nanomesh anymore, they're actual geometry. So I can go ahead and hold down Control Shift, grab my ice cream here, go ahead and let's do Control Shift A just to make sure we have it all split hidden. And now I've got the sprinkles on here. And now what we can do is do a group split. So we can go to split, group split. And now we've got our ice cream cone with sprinkles, and then we can throw this into Keyshot. Let's go ahead and add a dynamic subdivision back to our ice cream here. So we'll turn on dynamic. Smooth subdiv of 4 is fine. Do we need to smooth these sprinkles out here? I think they'll be okay. If we do a dynamic subdivision on these things, what I would want to do is under your geometry menu, by the way, let's do dynamic of 1. Because they don't need to be smooth that much. And they're really small. Let's keep our performance down. There we go. Let's do a quick save, which I should have been doing as I went along. And then what you can do is just when you go into and you want to render this thing, or you can throw different materials on here and render it in ZBrush, you can do that. So let's go ahead and render that really quick. So Sam, we're going to get to the different curve brushes that you could make to give you kind of the pointy edges there. Keyshot HD versus H Pro, is that really much of a difference? It is to me, because there's a lot of features in there that I use, but you kind of have to, and there's also workarounds to the features that they do have. Whoops, let's go ahead and right click this one, and we'll go to, what am I looking for here? Here, let's go to center and fit part. There we go. But you kind of have to look at the features. You can, I mean, I'm sure there's a website you can go to that's like, what's the difference between HD and Pro? And then you can kind of look between them and go, you know what, I'll never use any of these features. Then just grab the HD. One off the top of my head is when you go to render, edit, file, render. Here we go, render. You can go over here to render options, output. You can do render passes. So this saves me a little bit of time. Now you can do all of this stuff manually, although some of these might be a little more difficult than others. But I just like having render passes, so that's one thing I use all the time. I'm also not sure if you can go to like edit, add geometry, and add like cubes and cylinders and ground planes and all this stuff. So that's another useful thing. But then again, there's workarounds for all of those things. So pick and choose. If it's important to you, then by all means do that. Let's go to miscellaneous here. And I think we do have a cone, and we do have an ice cream here, and we do have Jimmy here. So let's go to plastic, hard, shiny, and we'll go like, you get to be red, you get to be orange, you get to be blue, and you get to be purple. There we go. So we've got all those on there. And also we were kind of playing around a little bit with like going in here, double clicking this one, you can go to the material graph, and so we did do that. We put the noise fractal into the color. So there's a noise fractal, which is 2 slightly different colors. We want to kind of beef that difference up. We can go ahead and make this a little bit darker here. So what we're basically doing is kind of mottling up this here. Let's go ahead and scale that down a bit too. Just kind of breaking up that surface just a bit. And that's with our noise fractal. I guess it looks okay. Let's lighten that up just a tiny bit. I don't want it that obvious. Okay, and then on this one here, the ice cream, we also piped in a noise texture into the specular here just to kind of break up that specular. If we go in here to specular and the roughness, we'll go ahead and make that a little bit shinier. On the cone, we put in a specular, and then on this one, we also, I think, oh, we didn't do it on this one. So let's go ahead and do a textures, noise, and we can pop that into the specular here. And if we want to see exactly what it's doing on our ice cream here, we can go right click here and do preview color. And now you can see what it's doing, so we can kind of know we need to scale that down. And you can also go to magnitude, and you can kind of increase that contrast here. And now if we go back here, turn off preview color, and then crank that roughness up, and we'll also make this a little bit brighter here. We're just kind of breaking up that specular just a bit. Let's go ahead and go to scale, and let's drop that down just a little bit. Something like that. So you can kind of play around. Why is it doing that? So you can kind of play around with that. And if you want to, of course, put this into different environments here, we were playing around with like interior spaces, put in a conference room. You can make it a giant. Let's see if ZBrush had any. Yeah, big old ice cream sitting out there. But I think we were just sticking with the conference room just to kind of get some interesting lighting. We can go to environment over here, change that color to like a dark gray or mid gray. and then you can just render this thing out however you want, and it'll look like an ice cream cone. Go to lighting, change it to maybe a product render. You don't need to probably do a full simulation since you don't have anything too crazy going on, and now you can have your ice cream all set up. So cool. And the reason I do use Keyshot is the ability to, you have to get the bridge for ZBrush, although I should probably kill those here. So, okay, let's say we like this. Let's go ahead and close the Keyshot down. If you want to go ahead and remove some of these, what you can do is, I guess you could merge them down, but you don't want to lose your polygroups, which you won't if you merge them down, I don't believe. So if you do this one, I have a hotkey for merge, which is Control E, just like I have in Photoshop here. So we can merge these all down temporarily, and then we can go, you know what? Sprinkles aren't ever going to land on this bottom lip here, so you can do Control Shift. Let's go select lasso, and you say like, okay, we'll go ahead and get rid of these, and then we'll do Control Shift A. Actually, let's do Control Shift, hold down Alt, and we'll get rid of these. Control Shift Drag to invert that selection. Do Control Shift A to grab all of those. Control Shift Drag again to invert, and then you can just go to Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden, and then you can go back here to Split to Group Split. And that'll split them back out into their respective groups here. So you can kind of control, and you can also just, if you wanted to, when you originally made this cone, just when you did the top-down polygroup, you could just get rid of these polygroups down here, or make it a different polygroup, and then wherever these polygroups are, that's where it would land up. Cool. Yeah, I mean, if you know, and it's kind of just, you gotta weigh like cost versus benefit. If you put in the cost and then but the benefit's not there, then you wasted money. But if you put in the cost and it's kind of an investment in your time, so if it takes you less time to do something and you do something a lot, I would say definitely get it, because you know, if it only let's say it only saves me 15 minutes a day. Well, 15 minutes a day, if you do it every single day over the course of a year, is probably worth a couple $100 of your time, I think. But it may not be a couple $100 of your time. It kind of depends. So is there a planar options like in Max Planar XYZ to straighten out edges? Sure, I think. I would just use clip probably, unless you want to clip to a specific axis, but this one's always a good one. Just clip it to whatever you want. Here's X, Y, Z. Any link for hair and fur for games that is made in ZBrush? I did a bunch of that on my, if you go to Pavlovich Workshop here, I think it's episode 4. Let me make sure I'm not lying to you here. No, that was for something else. Episode 6. So I'll link you here. So this is the direct link to exactly 6. I go through a bunch of different hair methods, and then if you want to check out my Pixelogic live stream, you can go here to this channel here. Cool. No problem. Glad you guys are liking the videos. Hope they're helping out. Thanks for showing up, by the way. Are you also having an issue with 4R8P1? So I'm on 4R8P2. You can no longer extrude edges with the transposed line of the gizmo. It used to work on R7 when you control shift, transpose, drag, and exit. So on this one, for example, so transpose modeling, you want to control, grab this one. We'll go ahead and invert that. We'll hit Alt to grab this one, hold down Control, and now you can just add edge rings like this. If you hold down Control Shift, sometimes it won't, but I think the thing was in scale, you can't control with scale, so you have to hit Y, and now you can control drag in edge rings, and then if you hit W, you can control drag down, or Control Shift. Is it not doing it? So this might have been what it was. So with transpose, it looks like control dragging down isn't working, so let's try Y, control drag. Okay, that's really weird. And now if we go back to scale and go back into transpose mode, we can scale this in and then control drag to bring in an edge ring, bring in another edge ring. But if we go back to W and control drag, oh, it does work. Okay, that's weird. So we can control drag up. Now, if you hold down Control Shift, it's going to do something. It's going to want to mask. So what you're going to want to do is control drag, and then it's going to, you know, not constrain it. Then hold down Shift, and that'll constrain it up. So Control Shift, and then if you want to scale this in, tap to refine that center. Although it's not constraining it. Goodness gracious. Okay, let's try this. Control, Shift, yes. Control, Shift, yes. Okay, I must be going crazy. Hit E, and then reset that, and then Control W, moves up. Okay, and now I'm getting weirded out. So let's go ahead and reset this one. Control, drag in, W, Control, drag in, Shift. Okay, so it is working. Okay, so it seems to be maintaining its functionality. The gizmo only does a little. I think the gizmo only does like Control, drag to add an edge ring. It doesn't do the inset edge loop or the edge ring around when you do scale. So I would say hop out of gizmo mode and just use transpose. That seems to maintain the functionality. Unless it was a P1 thing where it wasn't working, but yeah. Yeah, and if you, so if you did only have, let me see, let's go do group by normals here. We isolate this one and we go ahead and delete hidden. This one, I don't know. Yeah, if you hold down control, it's going to drag out a copy. Y, control, yeah. So, yeah, you would need some sort of thickness here. So in this case, it would be Q mesh, polygroup all here. And then if we hit W, control tap, and then control drag out, shift. I think that'll work. Yep, this will all be on my YouTube channel when we're done. So if you want to see more of that, just go to my playlists here, and it'll be under live stream full episodes, and then live stream highlights as well. Oh yeah, good idea. All right, so also what we can do. Actually, let me see. Make sure I'm making this right. You know, you would think I would know how to just make things off the top of my head, but I almost always have to, even something as simple as a cherry, I'm like, you know what, let's grab some reference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my custom menu. So I have a custom menu here under Alt-E, and I hit M, or you can just scroll up here. So for instance, if I want to drag out any shape, I can just drag out a shape here, and that'll just drag out, and it'll inherit my dynamic properties that are on there. If I want to change this on the fly, I can hit W and then just scroll through, and then I'll go ahead and just cycle through these. So I'm going to grab a sphere 12 right here, and now I'm just going to do a split unmask points, and then I can Alt-tab this one here. I'm going to hit Shift-D, and now we're just going to kind of model a cherry in here. So what we can do is, you know what, I could try and box model a cherry, but that's dumb. So what I'm going to do is, let's go here, let's just Dynamesh this thing. And I'm going to go ahead and go into my deformation menu. Let's do a quick polish by feature. Polish that down. You know what? Polish by feature, open circle. That'll really polish that out. Now I'm going to go into dynamic mode, preferences, edit, turn off line cursor to surface. I was going to punch in, let's go ahead and hit L to take off lazy mouse here. I'm going to punch in a little divot on the top. And some of these look like they kind of also do this number. So let's turn lazy mouse back on, and we'll crank that up. All this stuff, by the way, is under your stroke menu. So lazy mouse is L, toggling that on and off, and then lazy radius is just cranking that up. So we'll go ahead and smooth this out here. And now we can go in here with our pinch brush. So B, P, and now we can go in here with our clay brush. We can kind of just build up around the edges here. And if you want to, you can crank up that resolution in your Dynamesh just a bit. They're working kind of low here. And then we'll go in here with smooth. I'm going to grab smooth stronger, which for you guys will be under your comma key. You can go to the smooth, go to your brush tab. And that's also use inflate. So instead of clay brush, I'm going to use inflate. That's just a little bit of a softer fall off here. So we're making just kind of a cherry shape here. That'll work. And we'll get a much smoother result once I Z-remesh this thing. You can hear my dog. Well, my dog. A dog in the background eating her food. Okay, so now we need to, let's go ahead and do a nice clean sweep out of here. So I'm going to go to, again, my custom menu here. We'll grab a cylinder 12, and we'll just drop in a cylinder. And we'll go ahead, let's go hit Y to go back to our gizmo mode. We'll go ahead and shrink that down. We'll hit Control Drag to drag out a copy, and we'll give this a nice graceful arc out here. Now, of course, if you're going to put a cherry on a What are you making? Ice cream? You're probably going to use a candied cherry, which isn't going to have a stem, but since we're talking about cherries and modeling, let's go ahead and just grab this. So we're going to grab these 2 cylinders I made, and we're going to go ahead and split hidden, which is under your subtool split menu. And now we can go through here. We can go again, delete, let's do flat island, and then delete flat island. And now we'll just go ahead and bridge 2 holes, and we'll just keep spline. I think spline will work. Tap one edge, tap the other. Now you just give that a slight little arc, or in fact, we can just give it just 1 division here. And then if we need to add more divisions, we can go through here and insert multiple edge loops, or we can just ZBrush this thing. So let's go ahead and do a group by normals. And then we'll do ZRemesh, same, adapt the size down to 0. And let's do double. Nope, we don't have that option. So we'll go here to geometry, ZRemesh, double, that size down to 0. Let's go ahead and hit Control D. Let's see, crease PG, it's under your crease menu, Control D, and we'll go ahead and delete lower, and now we'll do same, ZRemesher. There we go, that's what I'm looking for, it's just a nice even distribution of those. And then if you want to change this, you can go in here to your deformation inflate brush. You can kind of inflate those down. And then if you want to, you can go through here with your inflate brush. So you can deflate, and then you can go through here with your inflate, and you can kind of just change that. And then if this is getting a little bit wonky, actually it's not, because the end of the cherry stem's going to look kind of like this, kind of bulbous out. And now you can go through here and subdivide this thing and sculpt it up however you want. I'll hit D. And now we've got this. Of course, if we have a candy cherry, we don't need that stem. So I can go ahead and hide this just by clicking the nameplate, turns the eyeball off, and now we've got the cherry. Now this cherry is not very smooth. Now we can continue subdividing this, but what I'm going to do is just do another, we'll do half ZRemesher, turn off keep groups, adapt to size, crank it up just a little bit. There we go. And then we'll, let's do half again. And now when I hit D, we'll get a nice smooth result. That'll be our cherry. And we probably want to move that around just a little bit more. We really just shoved it right in there. What you would want to do also is go into, you would probably want to put the cherry in first, sculpt the ice cream around it, and then do the polygroups so that the sprinkles kind of deform with the ice cream there. So up to you. But if we want to put the cherry back in, just so we can kind of show that that's a cherry, even though it's not probably what you would want to do in real life, we can just put that right back in there. And then we can Alt-tap the bottom of this stem. So we Alt-tap to select the subtool, then we can Alt-tap the bottom to reset our pivot. And now we can go ahead and just move this thing around here. Ta-da! Cool. Alrighty, and again, if I miss any questions or anything, just keep shouting them out and I'll try and get to them. I do want to do, how much time we got? We got about another hour. When you do straps and curve-related parts like a belt or a backpack, do you use ZBrush or rather do it in Max, Miyamoto, etc.? I always use it ZBrush for everything. But that doesn't necessarily mean I use the curve brush. So one thing you can do, you can go to BC Brush Curve, and you can grab, there is a curve strap snap. So if you go here and go to make polymesh 3D, it's like, okay, I want to make this, if I make this another polygroup and then I do curve snap and then I hold down shift, it'll snap it to those polygroups here. You can also go in here to stroke, curve function, just frame an open border, frame polygroups or creased edges, whatever you want to do. So that's one way to lay out a strap. Now you might notice, if you go over here to your modifiers here, your brush modifier set to 4, if you crank that up and then tap this, that's just going to give you, and also the Z intensity is at 25. So really all this is, if you go to BC, brush curve tube, you're going to see this one's set to 20, and its Z intensity set to 100. So if I frame this one, you're going to see what we're getting is a perfectly round tube. That's curved tube. If we drop that Z intensity down, it's going to flatten that tube out like so. So see how it flattens out? And if you go over here to the brush modifier and take it from 20 down to 4, that's going to give us a strap profile. So we'll go ahead and update this one, and now you're going to see that brush curve tube turned into a brushed curve snap. So that's all it's doing, is changing that brush modifier from, so 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4 on the profile here to make a square. As you keep cranking this up, it adds more division so that it makes it rounder, and then if you drop your Z intensity down, it makes it flatter into a strap, or if you crank it up, it's going to make it rounder into more of a square. So that's all it is. But that doesn't necessarily mean, like I said, that I would use curve tube snap. So for example, if I go into my, I'm trying to remember one where I did a bunch of straps, probably this guy. So you could use a curve brush for your straps, and there's much fancier straps in there. For example, oops. I think brush, curve, brush, insert multi-mesh curve here, and you can go in here and choose any number of things. You can get as fancy as you want with your straps. I think this one's a pretty fancy shoulder strap, you know, so you can get fancy like that, and that would be, you know, trying to model this in any way in Max or Maya or Moto would be pretty trying for me personally. Your mileage may vary. However, when I usually go to make straps, all I do is, let me see if I can go grab this guy real quick. There we go. This guy had a bunch of straps on him, if I remember correctly. Body refine, 27. 27 iterations of refining a body. Whew. Okay. Load it up, load it up. I usually end up taking the easy way out, especially it has to just conform to a surface. Go into edit mode here. All right, so this guy, he has a strap here. He has a strap around his leg. He has a strap around his body here. So if you start hiding some of this stuff here, you can kind of start seeing he has a strap around the barrel that keeps it in. He has a strap around his arm that keeps this thing on him. Oh boy, he's got straps around his arm to keep this cloth on him. So if I get rid of this cloth here, you can see, yeah, he's got straps galore. So let's say I wanted to put a bunch of straps on this guy. So what I would do is I would have my live surface, and the live surface would be anything that would be visible in the case of strap making. Now you could also just make a cylinder, or when you make the pants, you could make a strap off the cylinder like I probably did for this belt here. But in reality, what I would do is I'd just take this guy here. Let's go ahead and do delete other. So we just got our base mesh here. Now, if I want to do my topology brush on this guy, he's going to have subdivision levels. So what I can do is I can delete lower and then use it, and then I got to reconstruct subdivision. So instead of doing that, I'm going to go to insert a sphere. I'm going to take this sphere. And if I want to put straps across X symmetry, what I can do is turn on X symmetry here. And then we can just scale this thing down. And we can just push it way up inside his body. And so we can go here. Now I've got something without subdivision history, but I still have live surfaces. And again, anything that's visible is going to be a live surface. So if I go to BTO, I can go in here to my topology brush, and then we have X symmetry turned on. So now I can just simply drag out where I want my straps to go. So it's like we want a strap to go from here, and oh yeah, I'm going to go to the back. Okay, that's no big deal. Just continue this curve this way. Now I want to make another strap, or the other side of the strap, I should say, here. And now you just go here, strap, 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 strappy, strap, 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 tap off here, and now we can just do split mass points, and that'll go ahead and split that off from the original Z-sphere here. Of course, if you want to, if we merge these back, you can have that Z-sphere, it maintains some properties for you. So if you want to, you can, like, you know, crease this thing so that it creases correctly, and then you can change your crease level to 3, your smooth subdivs to 4, and then you can have, as you're drawing out new topology here, so if we go to BTO, and we want to put in more straps. Again, if you go off of a surface and hold down shift, it might swing around the edge of the surface, but it might have to be that surface that's live, so it's probably not going to work. So you just have to manually draw that around, or you could just insert a cylinder and mush it into shape. It's not a big deal. If you want to continue this strap or do more straps, you just go here, BTO, strappy, strappy, strap, strap, strap. If you tap off, it's going to maintain those crease qualities. So again, we'll just go down here, hit crease, and now we're rocking and rolling. So all of that stuff you can set up dynamically. But what we want to do is just hold down Control Shift. We'll isolate this one, Control Shift A. We'll go ahead again and do split hidden under your split menu. And now at this one, we'll do Shift D. And now we've got a strap. Now if I want to, I can go into my brushes here. And I think I've got some that are like military clips. I got some old stuff in here. These aren't really that accurate, but we can just drop in a little clip here. If I want to be like Z-modeler-y about it, I can go through here and be like, okay, that's where that's going to go. We'll go ahead and split mask points. And then we can go through here. Let's go ahead and just do a group by normals so I can take this side here. Let's go into transparency mode. We can do Q mesh, polygroup all. We'll just hold down shift and just push these in here. Now I want this one to go up and then these ones to stay down. So I'm going to position these ones first just by using my move brush here. We'll kind of push these in. And then it's just a simple matter of, you know, adding control loops in here. So you can go to like insert single edge loops. Like I want you to stay put. I want you to stay put. And I want you, we can go ahead and like bevel this edge loop complete if we want to add another bit of fidelity in here. And now we can just go through here. We can just take this one and move it up. Now I don't normally get that crazy about my modeling here. So we hit D. And then we'll just go ahead and do another crease here. That'll kind of build in that kind of ridge here. Let's go ahead and turn his body off. We don't need to see all that. And then you kind of finagle these things in. I'm not usually even that particular, but if you wanted to get particular, you certainly could. Like so. Another thing you do if you want to like loop this back around, it's just a matter of going through here and being like, okay, Q mesh, these just alt paint over these ones, Q mesh polygroup all. Just pop out a copy real quick. And then you can just hit here. Let's go to delete, single poly, boop, boop. And then let's go ahead and bridge 2 holes. Boop, boop. There we go. So that'll kind of loop around. And now you've got, of course, you want to, you know, crease this thing as needed. Let's go ahead and just do a quick crease, edge loop complete here. And then on the inside, if that'll do it. Yeah. Here and on the inside. Now when you hit D, that'll kind of give us that result. Now it did add a little bit of extra creasing we didn't want, so we go here to crease edge loop complete, hold down Alt, and that'll just get rid of that creasing. So you can kind of loop these things around. You can also go in here, like you would just subdivide this up and then put in a little clay brush. You could also get extra fancy if you want to. You could go to like insert, single edge loop here, and then we could do maybe a split point. And then we could go like Q mesh, polygroup island, and push this back in. And then you would have like a little thing to do like BI brush insert, clothing, snap assembly. Let's push this down in there. And then we'll scale across local symmetry here. And then we can go ahead and split that off. So split mask points. Now if this is a little too sharp around here, we'll drop that crease level down to 2. I'll kind of soften that out. So there you go. You got some straps you can just build manually. You can't edit the curve after it's applied. No, after it's been applied, you lose that curve functionality. But while it's a live curve, you can go in here and you can go like brush curve tube. And you can just drag out a curve. As long as anything's got a curve, you can then go to like brush insert army and then make it into bullets. Or you can go into, make it a hose, or you can go into and make it, what's a good one? I got dragon bones and stuff. Zipper, make it into a zipper. I use zipper all the time. Now some of these are going to have different lengths depending on how they're created, so you might have to just re-drag out a copy of this thing and go split mask points. Now this one, if it's being a little bit slow, it's because dynamics turned on, and some of these things are kind of intensely polygon heavy. So how many times I've been using ZBrush? I've been using ZBrush for about 12 years now, I want to say. Hey Yarav, can you show us how to run cables from one point to another like the spotlight object in ZBrush? Spotlight project in ZBrush here. So project, demo projects, the searchlight. If I am doing anything with the curve brush that has to go in a line, that's when I would do, let's do Shift D. So we go to brush, insert, curve here, and then any of these that you grab, you can grab stitches, grab a hose, go in here to your stroke, and then just go over here to your curve, do as line, and now you can just drag out straight lines. So if I'm going from one point to another, definitely as line. And then you can also turn off bend and snap. You can hit 5 to save a screenshot or a snapshot of that, and then you just keep hitting 5 and you can just drag out copies. And then you can tap off to get rid of that curve, and you're good to go. Now, again, if you do want to drag this off, you can turn on bend snap again, and then you can just bend this thing around, or you can go to brush, or you can go back in here and just change it to whatever you want, buttons or whatever. How to draw out a series of boxes like the Great Wall of China using curve and tripart insert brush, but still making all the boxes remain upright. I mean, it should do it by default, I think. You might, if you're trying to make the Great Wall of China, I would probably use ZModeler. I wouldn't use curve brushes unless, I mean, yeah, you're trying to use curve brush to like follow terrain. Yeah, because those are always going to inherit the surface normal. So you would want to have it like drag out a curve brush, but maintain. That I don't know how to do. That's a tough one. The crease function is, so if we go over here to the cylinder here, I'm going to edit mode. Make a polymesh 3D. So all the crease function's doing is if you go into geometry crease and we do like crease by angle, by default, the crease tolerance is set to 180, so we hit crease, nothing happens. As you drop this down, nothing happens. Nothing happens. As soon as you get below 90, you're going to see that since this is a 90-degree angle and it's lower than that, it's going to go ahead and crease that for us. So now what that does is if I hit D for our dynamic preview, that's doing the same thing as if I had done Control D, which is adding subdivision levels. So you always want to do dynamic preview unless you really want to, because that kind of inhibits your ability to do things later. So now that we have these creased, we can go through here. Let's do a quick QMesh polygroup island, and then we'll also do polygroup here. So we'll just do a couple polygroups here, then we'll go to QMesh polygroup island, and we'll QMesh this one in and this one out. So you're going to see as we go through here and crease, we can hover over an edge with our ZModeler brush, BZM, and then we can go to crease edge loop complete, and then we can just manually crease some of these edges. So you're going to see this is a soft fall off because it's not creasing, it's just averaging those vertices as it subdivides. This one is a harsh fall off because, or a sharp fall off, because it's adding in creases there. It's basically essentially very similar to if we were to hover over an edge and do an insert single edge loop, and we were to put edges very close here. You're going to see how it kind of sharpens up that edge. If we hit Shift D, you're going to see what we did was you just put a very close edge ring in there. Now I don't like to do very close edge rings because that adds a lot of geometry and kind of destroys the nice layout that we have of these. So if we go in here and do like, again, insert single edge loop to kind of tighten up these outer edges here, number one, we're adding a lot of geometry in these areas, and that's not ideal, but it will give you sharper edges. So what I prefer to do is undo those. What I prefer to do is just run a crease down here. So we'll go ahead and just do crease edge loop complete, and that goes through and adds those little dotted lines that tells it it's a crease surface. So now it'll be nice and crispy. However, if it's too crispy, if it's too sharp, what you can do, what we were talking about earlier, is going in here to our dynamic subdiv and our crease, and we can drop our crease level down to 3, and then our dynamic subdiv, smooth subdiv, up to 4. And now what it's doing is basically subdividing up, keeping my crease nice and sharp until it hits 3 subdivisions, and then on the 4th one it uncreases everything, and that gives us a nice soft fallout. If I make these the same, subdiv of 4, crease level of 4, we're going to get that razor sharp surgical edge. As I drop this crease level down below that, it starts softening that edge. Crease level of 2, crease level of 1. So at this point it's basically creasing 1 subdivision and then uncreasing all, and now we're getting, you know, these are very soft because we didn't crease those at all. Now, of course, since this is dynamic, we can simply go in here and we can crease these ones and see how it is. And we can go like, you know, let's try crease level of 2. So you don't ever have to commit. You can go through here and kind of just feel out the what you're trying to achieve here. And if it ever gets a little bit weird to kind of select an edge, just do Shift D to go out of that mode, and then you can crease that. So you're just adding in creases here. Now that's different from, so that's dynamic with smooth turned on. It's a little bit different from if we were to go to like initialize Q cube here. What I would use for this, if you're just keeping boxy objects here, I would go into dynamic, turn up Q grid, and we'll turn smooth subdiv down to 0. And what that's basically doing is we got Q grid on. You can change your coverage. So you can kind of just build in a bevel here. And again, it looks like I'm adding in edges or bevels here, but I'm really not. If I do Shift D, you're going to see it gets rid of them. So now at this point I can go to Q Mesh, polygroup all, I can pull this out and pull this out and pull this out. Or I can go to Q Mesh, all single polygons or polygroup all. I can Alt tab these ones, and now when I hit D, you're going to see it kind of adds in those edge loops. Now I'm getting a little bit of wacky stuff in here, but we can go ahead and pull these out. Let's go ahead and just do polygroup all here. So I'm just going to Alt paint these ones. I'm going to treat these as a polygroup, and then we just have D applied. So where this kind of breaks down is if you want to do a smooth curve. So you're going to kind of pick your boxy objects. QGrid works great. However, as soon as you go in here and do something like bridge, connected polys in a circle with a specified curvature of 100, specified resolution of 8, aligned to normal, triangle sides, and then you kind of just do this. And now when we hit D, you're going to see QGrid is going to chew up these edges because it wants to keep everything boxy. So in that case, I would turn QGrid off, turn my smooth subdivisions up, but now I'm getting a blobby mesh. So this is where I would go into my crease tolerance, tap crease, and now I'm getting creases along those edges, but now they're razor sharp. So I'm going to keep my crease level of 2, my smooth subdiv of maybe 3, and now I'm getting a nicer transition. So let's do crease level of 3, smooth subdiv of 4. There we go. So now we can do nice soft curves here. So if you want to bridge these two here, we can go to like delete this poly and then this poly. And now we can bridge 2 holes, so here to here. And now, and again, if we hit D, it's going to be like, okay, these are all crease, but this one's kind of soft. So again, I'm just going to go in here in my crease tolerance, and you can crank that up or down. Let's go D. There we go. Now, if you need to clean up any of your creasing, you're like, you know, that crease probably doesn't need to be there. Just go in here to crease, edge, and then hold down Alt, and that'll uncrease. So you can kind of uncrease some of those things there. And then Shift D will snap you out of that dynamic subdivision mode. Cool. The sticky mode is if you want to drag out copies of something. So if you go to, let's go to my custom menu here. We have a cylinder, and we want to put a cylinder right here, and then we want to go ahead and make copies of this in a straight line. If you hit, let's hold down Alt. If you hold down Control and drag off a copy, and then you hit 1 to replay, it's going to do something weird. So what you're going to want to do is turn on sticky mode, hold down Control to drag out a copy, and then when you hit 1, it'll snap. It'll keep that. Basically what it's really doing, that's just one effect of what it's doing, but basically what sticky mode is doing is if you hold down Control, so see where the pivot is, you hold down Control and drag out a copy, it's going to snap the gizmo axis right back to where it was before. However, if you turn off sticky mode and you drag out a copy, that's going to follow with. So if you ever want the gizmo to snap back to its original position, you turn on sticky, and that's useful if you want to replay last. Crease does behave when you export, as long as you export with an FBX. OBJs I don't think hold creasing, but if you go through here and you use Go Z, or you use Z plugin, here Z plugin, FBX export. Export as an FBX, it'll keep your creasing, or use Go Z, and it'll maintain your creasing and all that good stuff. Cool. So let's see, we got that one done. All right, let's go ahead and give ZBrush a little break here. We'll restart that, and what I need to do now is we've got some reference over here, so we're going to make this thing really quick. I'm not quite sure what this is. It's kind of like a little camera looking laser pointer thing. So let's go ahead and go to texture, import, and we're going to go to streaming, pickle Rick reference, and let's grab that. So we got his gauntlets. I'm going to skip his gauntlets for now. We're going to bring this thing in. So we're going to go to, this will be a little bit of ZModeler fun. So I'm going to texture, select that, add it to my spotlight here, and we'll go ahead and make this a little bit lower opacity. We'll kind of size it down a little bit. So battery should be pretty easy to make. We can bring in some reference for that. And we'll do Z and Shift Z. So Z to toggle in and out of widget mode, and then Shift Z to toggle this on and off. So to start this thing out, what we're going to do is, I guess if we need to make them the right scale, let's go ahead and load up our streaming. And again, these aren't really positioned correctly, but we'll ignore that for now. So if we open this up, You know what? This might not even be the latest one. Oh, you know what? No, I don't think this is the latest one. I think they have the latest one somewhere else. So if we go here, this will be at least roughly what scale he's going to be at. So if I look and see how big this thing is, and it does kind of change between, you know, scenes here. So here, it's probably, if I'm going to be posing this thing out, I'm going to want to make it about this size. This size, it's a little bit bigger than that, I think. You know, this thing is about the size of his eyeball, but this thing here, even though it's in perspective, it's a little bit bigger. So you got to kind of pick and choose. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be about this size here. So we'll go ahead and we'll make it. I mean, we can always change it when we go to pose them out. So long story short, let's just start with the Polymesh 3D. All right, you know what? I'll do it right. So I'll go here to Subtool. We'll append a cube. Now this cube is going to have polarized ends and a bunch of subdivisions here. If you want to, you can like Z-remesh this thing. If you go down here to Z-remesher, we could do like same depth size down to 0 and Z-remesh. That'll go ahead and Z-remesh this thing. But what I'm probably going to end up doing is just go down here to initialize, as it's a Polymesh 3D, hit cube. That'll give me a very just simple cube here. And now I can go to unify under deformation. That'll make it a little bit bigger. This is the size of a ZBrush primitive. And also about the right size we need. I can just kind of eyeball in like, okay, if he's going to hold it up over his shoulder here, about yay big, kind of look at my reference and, oh, you know what, it's a little bit shrunken, but that's about right. So let's keep it about this size here. I'm going to go ahead and work on this in its own file for now. So what I can do is I can just hit delete other. I can clone this off as well, but I can just hit delete other. And now it'll delete everything out of my scene. So now we got this thing kind of dialed in here. If we have perspective turned on, so we can kind of put this right in the middle of our object here, and now we can start modeling this thing. Now I do want to go ahead and do, again, our document trick where we go into ZapLink properties and hit custom one, and that'll kind of save this view out. I'm probably going to change it a little bit as we start dialing this thing in, but for now I'm going to go to QMesh, Polygroup Island, and we'll go hold down Shift. We'll bring this down, and we'll bring this forward. Again, I'm just holding down Shift so that I can just pull along these normals here. There we go, and then hold down Shift. So now we got that in there. I can kind of start dialing in the shape a little bit, and maybe let's go out of perspective mode. It looks like this is a little bit more drawn as if the focal angle was pretty shallow. So it was like we had it zoomed in, so it was giving us more of an orthographic view. So really, we probably don't even need perspective turned on for this, which is good because when you're doing hard surface stuff, having perspective turned on can kind of throw you for a loop. Another thing I'm going to do is hit X to go across X symmetry. We'll do a quick mirror and weld, geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld across the X. So we know we're Z forward because when we appended this, we know we were looking Z forward. But if you want to make sure, turn on your floor, go to the bottom here, that little blue squiggly, that blue line is Z forward, green is Y up. That's where we want to be working. So I'm going to reposition this really quickly just to kind of make sure we're on point. Let's get rid of that floor. We don't need that anymore because we know which end is forward. It's going to be the little laser cannon here. And we'll go ahead and do clear to custom one and then hit custom one. You can also do clear all to clear all your views. So it looks like this cylinder over here is not quite on the middle. So we're going to go to my custom menu here with all our different cylinder types. Or you can also go to like BI brush insert. You could do insert primitives over here. I have my own custom one I just made. And we'll go to cylinder 12, right? Let's say. Now we have X symmetry turned on, so if we go down the middle, that'll just drag out a version here. And actually, you know, that could end up looking right if I, you know, I'm going to rearrange some of this reference here. So all this pickle Rick stuff can go. All I really need is these different views of this thing, which I think I only have like one side, but we can extrapolate some of this data here. I think it's symmetrical across the x-axis, which is helpful. You know, it does look like that cylinder is right smack dab in the middle here, so I'm going to ignore that it's off a little bit here, and we'll just call it a day. And if I want to, I can go and split mass points and split that off into its own subtool if I want. Okay, so back here. It looks like each one of these polygroups here is inset into a different region here, so we can go in here. Now I got to ask myself, do I want to start dialing in detail this early? Not yet. I'm going to go ahead and make this top piece here. So what I'm going to do is duplicate off, and I want it to be a separate piece. I don't think I want it to be all one piece because I want to play around with this a little bit. So I'm going to duplicate this box here. I'm going to hold down Control Shift. We're going to grab this top piece here, and we're going to delete hidden. Now what we're going to do is we're going to inset here, and we're going to inset polygroup all region, and that's going to pull in the entire region in just a little bit. And we're going to match this little battery pack here. So the battery pack looks like it kind of just comes in just a tad, and we can go ahead and hold down Control Shift, isolate this middle polygroup here, and then just do another delete hidden. So now if we take this box here and we go to QMesh polygroup all and we pull this up, that's going to give us, oh, you know what, we had polygroups on both sides. Go into solo mode here, hold down Alt and delete hidden. There we go. So we pulled up to get the height of that box. Now this middle part here is going to arc out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to insert single edge loop. We'll kind of put in some control curves on this side. So when we bring this up, we get a nice clean arc. And I'm also going to go through here and we'll do a quick bevel. And we'll just kind of give this a little bit more resolution. So now what we can do is, let's see if we can we move? We can move an edge here. If we hold down Shift, it's going to move it in and out, but not up and down. So what we're going to do, because I don't want to break my view, I can break my view and hit Custom 1, but I'm going to try to do is go to Mask Edge, and then if we hold down Control Tap, that'll invert that, and now I can just kind of move that up to kind of set that. So let's do that for all these edges here. So we're going to mask this edge, this edge, this edge, Control Tap to invert that, and I'll just push all these up all at once. So that'll kind of maintain that nice curve that we have here. And it also looks like we have another cylinder here. So I know this cylinder is in the same axis as this one, so let's go ahead and duplicate that cylinder off. And we'll just scale this up. And this pivot is right at the end of that, so we can just scale this down and then scale this in. And I think we're pretty close to where this cylinder should be. There is a box kind of attaching these two, but we can get to that later. So we have the battery component pack here. And now we need to, you know what? Let's do Shift Z to get rid of that. That's about right, but it looks like the interior of this is one shape here. So what I'm going to do, let's go into solo mode here. I'm going to Alt Paint over all this stuff because I want to get rid of it. And now I can just do delete a single poly. It'll treat those all as a single poly. And now I can go through here, QMesh, all polygons. I can just pull in. That'll give me some thickness on those edges. And now I can flip, display properties flip. And now we have a little bit of thickness for that battery compartment to sit in. So let's go out of solo mode, and then we'll go back into custom 1, Shift Z. So we got that dialed in. Now the reason why I didn't go in to start detailing this stuff out is because, you know, it's easy enough just to inset these as a region and pull those in, but as soon as I start adding edge loops, I might come into a situation where I didn't want to put in a bunch of details just yet. So we'll hold off. What's the easy way to do this? Let's go into my custom menu here, my custom draw. Let's do cylinder of 12 right on the top here. And we will just rotate these around, hold down Shift, and we'll rotate to and I could have drawn them in on this top here, but that's okay. And then we'll just move those around. And now I'm going to scale these things down and move them out so that they will be, it's getting a little bit dark here, something like this. And when they loop around, I think it's going to have to be out just a little bit, but then it's also going to flatten out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a split mask points. And if I want to match this edge row to this, so like if this is narrow here and I want these verts to line up with that one, what I can do is mask this top here, invert that mask, hit W, and then just Alt tap this here. Oh, you know what? We've probably, let me see, because I want to just scale those inwards. So what I'm going to do is shoot this to the top, shoot this to the top, merge this down real quick, and I'm just going to isolate this one, mask that top part, invert that mask, and now when I alt click this surface here, I can just scale that up so that as I'm scaling, those verts are just going to line up flush with that top part here. Now I can go ahead and just split these back out, and we'll do undo all my deletes here. Okay, so again, this is going to come in and be flat, so let's go ahead and do solo mode, Control Shift Alt, delete hidden, and just to go ahead, let's turn on double under our display properties, which is at the very bottom of your tool menu here under display properties. You can flip your normals, you can turn on double. I turn on double when I want to bridge edges occasionally, and let's also do preferences, edit, turn off line cursor surface. Okay, so we're going to do bridge edges here to here, here to here. And that also gives us a polygroup. So now all I got to do is go into our crease menu and do crease PG, and that crease menu is under your geometry menu here. Geometry, crease, and then crease polygroup here. So that'll go ahead and add that crease in there, and now we can go into QMesh polygroup all. We can just pull this straight out, and that'll give us that profile where it kind of loops around and then plugs in. Again, we don't need any of this middle stuff here, so we can just go ahead and Control Shift Alt drag and then delete hidden, and then just QMesh all polygons here. Let's kind of pull this in, and that'll give us our correct width. Although before I do that, let's go ahead and hit Control W. We'll go ahead and go to your geometry crease menu and just uncrease all, and now we can QMesh polygroup all. Now, because we turned on double, when I QMesh in, it looks fine, right? If we go down here to our display properties, if we turn off double, you're going to see, oh, they're flipped. So if I had turned that on and I wanted to later on go to a deformation inflate, and I inflate up and it starts shrinking, you know your normals are flipped. So turn off double, flip them, and now inflate will work correctly. Anywho, let's see, Shift Z, custom 1, how are we doing on time? Okay, 30 minutes. Okay, so now we know this is flush to the edge of this thing, which is about right, but I can move this into a little bit of a better place here. We kind of looks like we need to thicken this up. So when we made this thing, we know we have polygroups on the inside and the outside, and these outer edges need separate polygroups here. So I'm going to isolate those faces, hit Control W. Let's make that more obvious. You can just hit Control W just to keep cycling through. There we go. So now we have interior, exterior. The reason I want to do that is if I want to pull along the surface normal here to make these thicker, all I have to do is hold down Shift with QMesh, and it'll do that for us. Okay, so we made that a little bit thicker. Hit W, hold down Control, and just drag out a copy to go back here. And now we need screws here. You know what? I wonder... So those screws actually, let's see if we can just go into, give me a second here. Let's see if we can go to Fusion 360 real quick. So we'll drop through screws in just a minute. And then we can make our own screws, but also we can just take our own screws as well. So if we go here, we got this box here, and it's just a regular old box. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this box. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I know the bottom edge of this box is flush with this new box here. So if I'm going to make this inset box here again, just like we did for the top piece here, I'm going to hold down Control Shift Alt and just visibility, delete that one. And now we can do an inset. So in order to see how far in we need to inset, I mean, we can always make this thing smaller, but I'm just going to eyeball it for now. We'll do another inset, polygroup all region. Let's pull this in and then delete hidden, and now we can go QMesh polygroup all, pull this down. Now, as we pull this down, it also gets smaller here. So in this case, what we'd probably want to do is we have X symmetry turned on this way. So if we wanted to, like, say, slide an edge this way, both sides would slide, but not in this direction. So let's go ahead and go to our transform in X and Z, and now we can slide these in at the same time. Okay, so we'll do custom 1 here, and we'll turn everything back on. So we know this bottom part has to be flush. This width is probably about right, but now this bottom needs to come down a little bit more. So we can hold down, let's still hold down Control Alt, and that'll just mask that bottom. We'll hit W. Now I know this is still in the world position here. If I want to, I can center that right on that unmasked area here. And now I can just hold down Shift and just constrain that down. And again, I think that's right. You know, I think that it is coming straight down and then straight in. So I'm not going to do anything there. Now you're probably going to notice on my OBS here, oh, it's not too bad. My green screen's working out okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Insert, McMaster Car Component, and we're going to look at screws and bolts. Now this looks like a rounded top screw here. Is it a machine screw? It's not a drywall screw. Wood and drywall screw hex. Yeah, it's going to be something like this maybe. And then it's going to be rounded Phillips head. Screws for sheet metal. This gets very, very specific here. And also specific sizes and stuff too. So I was going to pick one that's vaguely what I need here. Let's see, rounded. I'm basically looking, and there's also, you know, probably better ways to browse through this stuff, but let's just do, these are all Phillips. Okay, here we go. Still hex head screws. So I think these ones are pretty close. although they're going to be a lot smaller. You know what, let's just roll with it. We'll grab this one here, and we'll do a very small one here. And we should be able to go to product detail, and then go to, what am I looking for here? It's been a while since I've been in here, as you can tell. And some of these may not actually have what I'm looking for here. So if we go back here, add to order, decorative distinct plate screw, I'm looking for tapping screws. Here we want to go to maybe a 3/8. Oh, here we go. So there's a product detail. This one does have a CAD, and then we can go to, oops, there's the dimensions of it. 3D SolidWorks. Let's choose, I guess this doesn't really matter. I think let's do a step and then save. And that'll go ahead and give us that screw. We can hit OK, and now we can go ahead and do let's go right click this one, and we're going to go to save as STL. And our custom refinement is going to be, let's do a high refined type here. And you can also change the normal deviation here if we want to do like maybe 5. The lower that number is, it's going to do higher resolution, and we'll call this screw test. It's going to be an STL file, so when we export this, we can go back into ZBrush here, clear a canvas, and now we can go into Z plugin, 3D print, hub, export STL. We want to import STL, desktop, and oh, you know what? No, it should have been an STL here, so let me see. Did it finish? Go back here. We can also try doing, hold on just a second. Desktop. Bodies. Save as STL. 5, OK. Screw test STL. Yes. And that was, oh, you know what? Downloads, duh, desktop. That's why it wasn't in my desktop, because I put it in downloads. Okay, import STL, desktop, screw test. Yay, so hit F, drag that out, go into edit mode here, and now if we go into solo mode, oh, you know what? When I imported it, we had something selected. So let's go ahead and undo that. So we want to go out of that. So let's go out of edit mode, hit Control N, go to my poly mesh, and then when you import an STL, just like importing an OBJ, you don't have anything selected because it'll replace it. So drag that out, go into edit mode, hit F, and now we have that screw. So now we can make an insert mesh brush out of this if we want to, or we can just append it. So we go back here, and we go out of solo mode here, and we just want to like append that screw. And then we'll take the screw, and then we'll just hold down Shift, and we'll scale it down. So it'll be something like this. And we can modify this as we need to, since it looks like this is going to be a much smaller screw and a little flatter of a top. You can also go into like brush insert BI. Model toolkit has some that might be a little rounder. No, these are all flathead, so I don't know. You can just model your own if you want to. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to scale this down because that's actually a little closer to what I'm looking for, like so. And now we can position this just a little bit better here. And then W, control drag out a copy. Now we want to mirror this on the other side as well. So make sure you have LSIM turned off, and we'll do a turn perspective off as well. We can go ahead and do a mirror and weld, and then hit X to go across X symmetry, and now those are all set in there. And now we can go back to our custom one, Shift Z, and we're in good shape. So we had perspective off probably, and those are about right. Okay, moving right along. it looks like in the front and in the back you're going to have two cubes sticking out here. So I'm going to alt tap this one. We're going to go into poly mode here, Shift D, and I'm always looking for, let's do Shift Z. I'm always looking for something I can grab from something that's pre-existing just to know that my things are put together or in the same area. So I'm going to go ahead and do duplicate. Although, you know what, let's do delete. Before I duplicate this piece here, let's go ahead and make sure that's the thickness that we want. I mean, it does look pretty thin. If I want to, I can QMesh polygroup all, hold down Shift, and I can just make this a little bit thicker if I want. Kind of feel out how thick you want those things. But now what I can do is duplicate this one off, hold down Alt. There you know, we duplicated this. Let's hold down Control Shift, and we'll do delete hidden. And now if we Alt, solo mode here, delete hidden. We got this one here. Oh, you know what? We tapped Alt and then we, stupid. So this is our duplicate. Let's go ahead and delete this one, duplicate this one. So I'm in solo mode here. That'll kind of keep me from making dumb mistakes here. So I'll hold down delete hidden. Now I'm holding down Alt. There we go. It was kind of flipping back and forth and kind of driving me nuts. But now I can take these two surfaces here and then invert that selection, delete hidden, and now I can do QMesh polygroup all, and I can pull in, and now we've got two cubes on either side. Let's go ahead and make sure doubles off. Good. And then we can start going from here. So now on one side, it's going to be kind of pointed, and on the other side is going to be straight up with a little small arc here. So we can go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and custom one here. I can slightly reposition this too, just to make sure this is a little bit more accurate. Okay, so as this one, let's turn on perspective maybe. It looks like some of this is in perspective, some of it's just a little bit out of perspective, so you can kind of fudge a little bit. Okay, so, and you can also go up here to your draw menu and change your angle of view and do more or less drastic perspective here. But what I'm looking for here is, let's go ahead and do, I'm going to grab these top surfaces here, and we're going to do Control W, make those all one polygroup. And now when I put this back to custom and reposition this a little bit, I know if I go through here now and do QMesh polygroup all, I can hold down Shift and I can drag those up to the right height. Now this one is going to be a little bit wider here, so let's do QMesh a single poly, and I can just pull this out to make it a little bit wider, and then I can just tap over here and that'll make it the same width, and then if I want to, I go back in here, insert single edge loop, and hold down Alt and get rid of those. Okay, so now that we have that, I can curve this one pretty easily. This one's going to need to be a tapered curve, so let's go ahead and do, and it's actually going to taper from here. So I'm going to go here to insert single edge loop on this side, and we're going to hold that edge here. Looks like I did something screwy. Alt, Alt, there we go. So again, we were holding this edge right about here, and I can hold down, let's go out of perspective mode, Control, drag this one, invert that, hit W, go to that masked circle center. If you want to go to the circle center that isn't local, turn off X, hold down Alt, go to circle center, turn X back on, and now you can just kind of pull these in. So we'll kind of do this like so, and then on this one here, since this is going to be an arc, I'm going to go to actually we'll just do a quick mirror and weld, and now we can do, let's go ahead and do a bridge, two connected polys. Bezier curve should be fine, and we'll do interactive curvature and resolution. So as we pull this out, we can kind of dial in our resolution and how shallow it should be. So we'll hit Control W. So now we've got these things. Looks like these things got a little bit wonky as well. Oh, you know what? When you pulled this in, I think QMesh didn't do us any favors, but we can fix this really quickly. So we can mask this one out, hold down Control Shift, we'll just clip these here, and then we can just mask this one side here and just move this back. And if you are ever in a situation where, you know, you got one side that's good and one side that's bad, all you really need to do in ZModeler is just, oops, go in here to select rectangle, delete that one side, and now we can just QMesh polygroup island, and now we can just pull this in, and it'll be, you know, it'll be straight across. Now if you have one side that's flipped, one side that's not, we can isolate this side, flip it, and now we're back to our regularly scheduled programming. So that was me not being careful enough when I made these things. But again, it's easy enough to fix. All I got to really do is go over here, back here to clip, and I can just clip this one side here. I can get rid of this side here, delete hidden. Let's turn on double really quick, and now I can just QMesh polygroup island. We'll QMesh this back out, and then we'll make sure that this side gets flipped, and we're back to where we started. Yay. Okay, so we've got this here, we've got that here. We'll do Shift Z, go back to custom one, and again we're kind of stepping in and out of like perspective mode or not perspective mode. This one looks a little bit tall here, so I'm going to hold down Control and then W, and we're just going to kind of pull that down here. Okay, that should be something like that. And the curves here, what I'm going to do for this one, so this goes to a battery on the back. Well, no, the battery on the back, I think, gets put into here. So this wire here is going to be separate. So let's go ahead and build that wire in there. So we'll put this here. Let's go ahead and go back to my custom menu here. We'll go to cylinder 12, and I'm just going to put a wire right about here, let's say. And again, is this across symmetry or not? It might not be. So if I want to, I inserted it on that polygroup or on that subtool. So I'm going to go to hide point, split hidden, or you can just do split mask points here. If I alt tap this one, I can hold down, I go out of X mode, hold down Control Shift, Alt, delete hidden. And now if I go back to custom one here, we'll position this a little bit closer and a little bit shallower. So that'll be where this one comes out. It'll go around and then back here somewhere. I don't really see where that ends up, but we'll eyeball it. If you want to, you can also kind of just, let's try this. Let's put in a plane on this side here. We'll go ahead and split mask points, and you can kind of put in a plane that will catch where you want that wire to go. So you can maybe use, let's go ahead and make this plane a little bit bigger as well. So if you did want to go to like BC brush curve tube, you can go through here and be like, okay, it's going to go here, and then it's going to go up and back and around and in, and then that'll be your cube here. I have a custom brush that I like a little bit better. It's under military. Yeah, simple tube. And all this one is just 1, 2, 3 divisions with an 8 cylinder. And now we can just kind of drag this in and around and back. And that'll give us our cube here. So we go back to custom one. We can kind of just dial in. Now, before this is set, you can make this bigger or smaller. You can also inflate it later, so it's not a huge deal if you don't get it exactly right. And now you can kind of position this thing around. And also, while you have this kind of set, you can hit 6, and that's going to smooth your curve out. Well, that smooths it out quite a bit. That's under your smooth. No, it's not. I think it's under brush modifiers here. Curve res. No, maybe it's not. It's under stroke. Oh, there it is. So smooth. Curve smoothness. If we drop this down, curve smooth slider, when the smooth button is pressed, I'm going to turn that down to 1. So when I hit 6, it doesn't smooth that drastically. There we go. Now let's kind of smooth that out. Now I can tap off to get rid of that curve, or you can go to stroke and just hit that delete under curve functions. Now we can do split mask points. And then we'll group by normals. And now we've got our curve in there. And now we can use a deformer on this thing if we want to as well. Let's do a bend curve. And now we can dial in that resolution on this axis here. And now we can kind of use this as a lattice, or you know what might even be a better one is the actual lattice deformer. And now we can control where we want these ones to be. And now go back into the deformer here. Control Alt, and then we can use this deformer to kind of just push and rotate multiple points of this thing around really quickly. Really kind of hard to see that gizmo. There it is. So something like this. And you can also just make your move brush big and just move this thing around. So go back to custom one. And let's see, we can also get rid of this plane. So we split that off. Don't need that plane anymore. And now we can kind of finagle that tube in there. Now you could also use the trick we did when we were doing the cone, the ice cream cone, where we just put a cylinder here and a cylinder here and a cylinder here and a cylinder here, and that will kind of dictate when you bridge them where they're going to go. But I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fudge this thing into shape. It's a little bit faster here. There we go. And of course, you can sculpt this thing out. You can inflate it. You can smooth it. You can Z-remesh to rebuild it. I think this will be fine for our purposes here. But if you wanted to make a perfect curve, then let's hold down Shift, drop the intensity down. You could definitely, you know, rebuild this thing or use this as a new pass. So if you wanted to, you can dynamesh this thing and flatten it out, and then you could draw a perfect curve along the surface to kind of save you a little bit of time. We'll go ahead and do a crease PG, hit D to dynamically subdivide. There we go. And then again, back into custom 1. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're running out of time. All right. Let me, we'll stop here. Let me go ahead and save this as streaming. Pickle Rick. And we'll go ahead and I'll catch up. I can't answer all the questions, but thanks for showing up. And I can always add some to my streaming topics here. So if I go back to my streaming topics, anything I missed, I can go ahead and do this. Cool. Yeah, and definitely, so Zion, definitely check out, so I'll link you guys real quick. So the Pavlovic's workshop for my Pixelogic channel is here. And for my YouTube channel is here. And if you go to the live stream full episodes or the live stream highlights, that'll be good. Oh yeah, I do need to upgrade a ZBrush or a Keyshot 7. Cool, cool. What was that thing you did about the preferences and cursor? So what I do not like to have happen, it's okay when I'm working on like really flat surfaces like this. So basically it's preferences, edit, align cursor to surface. If that's on, see how the cursor is going to kind of just like flip and flop depending on, you know, what surface I'm on. I don't really need that because I know on this side and on this side where that surface is, and I've been using ZBrush for long enough to where I was using it before this feature came into play, so really it's just distracting to me. I just go in here to preferences, edit, turn off align cursor to surface, and that way I know, like, I'm hovering over this face, so I know that, you know, that's the surface I want. And when I'm sculpting, I really don't want that thing flopping around. So that's just kind of a personal preference, but cool. Thanks for showing up, everybody. And yeah, download folder. Sorry, yeah, I totally messed that one up, but we figured it out. Cool. All right, everybody good? I will see you guys later. I'm going to go ahead and start. I got to go work out. I've been skipping. So thanks for showing up, everybody. And we'll get this Pickle Rick thing figured out. I think next Tuesday morning I'll be on Pixelogic's channel, and the next Thursday I'll go ahead and finish this laser cannon out. And we'll maybe pose out Pickle Rick, and then I want to start, when I get my new system, I want to do a little bit of photogrammetry. So we'll do, maybe I'll go into my garage and we'll get a battery and a screw and a wire and a pickle, and we'll photogrammetry some stuff, and we'll make it really cool and resurface it, and we'll make a super realistic Pickle Rick as well. I think that'll be fun. Exactly. No, I have definitely been skipping leg day for sure. I've got little stick legs. So thanks, everybody. And I will see you on Tuesday morning or next Thursday morning on this channel. Thanks for showing up, everybody.